always keep focused on.
It was not ours naturally. Yes, in Africa, like in every place, there were disputes.
Absolutely.
And there's some ethnic groups that would go to war. Just like here in this country, you had indigenous peoples that would go to war. They would fight for resources.
Absolutely.
Right? But after the war was over, there was no enslavement where you had to change your religion, your culture, your God, your name. That didn't happen. That only happened one place, and that's here in this country.
Mm.
We were always able to maintain our identity, but that all changed with the transatlantic slave trade, where everything related to where we came from and who we are had to be changed. And I think the reason for that is because Europeans had come to Africa. They studied the spiritual system and they understood the power of the spiritual system and our connection to our ancestors. So let me just throw this out there. The first country in the Western Hemisphere to gain independence from Europeans was Haiti.
Right.
Haiti was the third most profitable possession that the French had. So when the Haitians decided to rebel against their French slave masters, the French government at that time was led by Napoleon. He sent troops to quell the rebellion and return them to slavery.
Right.
The Haitians called on their ancestors. Understand something. The Haitians had no military training. They barely had weapons.
Right.
But with the weapons they got from the defeat of the French, they beat Napoleon's army that had never been defeated. So somebody has to explain to me now, because we talk about, Haiti and voodoo and all this other stuff as being negative, not understanding our own spirituality. But somebody has to explain to me how untrained former slaves beat trained soldiers who have been fighting throughout all of Europe.
Mm.
They came to Haiti and got their behinds kicked. Now, how does that happen if voodoo and the spiritual practices are so evil?
Right. Absolutely. I like how you put that into contrast, because it is important. And you know what? Because we were talking about biblical earlier. It made me think about Samson and his strength, which I have to interject. People don't know Samson was black. Okay. But I'm just going by, the strength, like you said, how are these people who were not trained were able to defeat people who were trained?
Now you brought up Samson. The Bible says that Samson had 7 dreadlocks. So we all know that dreadlocks comes from the Rastafarian culture.
Right.
Well, during that time, Europeans were not wearing dreadlocks.
Absolutely.
So that gives you an insight into who Samson was.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important for us to understand, when you read the Bible, who these people are, what they look like, what region in the world they came from.
Right.
Because the Bible was presented to us. Well, actually, they wouldn't allow us to read. So they told us what was in the Bible and told us what to say, what sermons to preach. Then when they presented us with the Bible, when we would read it, we just assumed, oh, well, all these folks, they got to be white. I have friends of mine that told me Adam and Eve were European. I'm like, well, if Adam and Eve were European, then how did black people get here? Because we have dominant genes and European genes. I'm sorry, but according to their own scientist, Dr. Mendel, they are recessive. Blonde hair and blue eyes are recessive traits, a genetic malformation. So if that's what Adam and Eve look like, how do you extract dominant genes from a recessive gene. It is
Mm.
completely impossible. Now,
Wow.
people say, well, God can do anything. Well, God created the gene pool.
Exactly.
And God gave some people dominant genes, some people recessive genes, right? Why would God do this when he created the laws and the gene pool? So this is just something that, we have been made to believe, again, to foster the idea of white supremacy, which I don't even like using the term white supremacy, because supreme to who?
Mm.
This is just a concept that was made up to try to, when people are born and you grow and begin to understand, everybody kind of wonders, where did I come from? What is the origin of all this, the earth, the sun, the moon, and everything, right? Sometimes to justify your origin, you create a story. And for many Europeans, it's a created story. It's a story that we were made to believe, but it's created. There is no European creation of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. This is in Uganda, by the way. So you think God is going to go into Africa and create two recessive people and send them running around through Uganda? That's not what happened. And even if you read the Bible carefully, it tells you that Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel.
Right.
Cain killed his brother.
Right.
So that leaves three people on the planet, correct?
Right.
Well, it said that God put a mark on Cain so that whoever would find him would not kill him. Who's
Right.
going to find him? And then it said he went east to the land of Nod and he got married. Married who? Where did these people come from? So there must have been people on the planet already when
Right.
this story was taking place.
Right.
There are temples and pyramids in Egypt that are 10,000 years old. And according to the Bible, well, not our calendar, right? Not the Gregorian calendar, but the Hebrew calendar. According to that calendar, we are in year 5,783. So they start history from the creation of Adam to present day. So they're saying the earth itself is just over 6,000 years old. But that's not possible when we have buildings that are still standing on the sands in Kemet that are 4,000 years older than the earth itself.
Right.
Something's not adding up.
Right.
Yeah. So we really need to, when you study, I would suggest that when people study the Bible, study history as well, so that you can kind of cross-reference, understand who's who, where this stuff is taking place, and what period it is in, say, Kemetic history. So people who say that they are Jewish will say that they are descendants of Abraham. And over time, Abraham's descendants were enslaved in Egypt.
Right.
Well, if you look at the time of the birth of Abraham, and then you contrast that with the period of time in Kemet, you find that when Abraham was born, Egypt was already in its 13th dynasty.
Mm.
Pyramids were built in the Old Kingdom. That
Right.
means most of the pyramid building was done already. So it's not really possible for his descendants to be building, pyramids in Egypt that were built already.
Mm.
And if you watch the Ten Commandments, there is an interesting part where Charlton Heston has been reduced to slavery. And he is at a pit where they're supposed to be making brick. And they were saying that the Egyptians would not give them straw to make brick. My question is, what were they doing with these bricks? Because if you look at a pyramid, there are no bricks. Zero. All of the building of the pyramids was done using stones, huge stones cut into place and fit into place. There's not a single brick. So somebody's not telling the truth about what happened in Kemet. And because of this story that we're told about Moses and others, that was to create a paradigm that we would believe, to this day, that certain people are the chosen ones and are therefore entitled to certain lands and certain blessings that would specifically be for them. Yet, how do you prove that you are descendant of Abraham?
Good question.
Well, I'll give you, let's kind of finish up with this. If you read in the Bible, it is in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, somewhere around verse 66. And it reads like this. It said, "And the Lord will send you back to Egypt, this time on ships." So what we're talking about is a people that were loaded onto ships and taken into a strange land to live among strange people. When you understand who those people are, you begin to understand who the real chosen people are.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a mouthful right there.
Yeah. So
That's gonna make me want to go in my Bible open and go to Deuteronomy.
Yes, I would urge you to do that. I would urge you to read the words for yourself, and then ask someone to explain to you who are these people.
Interesting.
Because according to Jewish history, they walked into Egypt, and 400 years later, they walked out.
Right.
So they walked in and walked out. Who are the people they're putting on the ships? So, we'll have to debate with our Jewish friends, right? To ask them, who are these people that are put onto these ships, and where did they take them? And what happened to them? So I'll just let you think about that, let you and your viewers think about that. And maybe another time we can come back and discuss what happened to those people and where they are today.
Yeah. I think that would be a great idea for you to come back and tell us who were those people and where they are today. But Ron, I thank you so much. This information was very powerful. I hope this resonated with you, my listeners. I hope you are gaining something today, because I know I gained a lot too. So again, Ron, thank you for coming here. And
it's always a pleasure.
Knowledge. You always dropping nuggets on us, and I appreciate it. This is going to provoke our thinking. This is going to even think, even wiser, like, is what we taught was a lot. We already know part of it was, but then now we can start to put pieces together. So I thank you for that, Ron, and I appreciate
you're so welcome.
Me. And Ron, are you on Instagram?
I am. I don't use Instagram very often, but I'm on Instagram as Brother Ron, Brutha Ron.
Okay.
But I'm not on there very often. Mostly I'm on Facebook and of course on the podcast.
Right. So tell them again, how can they find you on the podcast and on Facebook?
Well, on the podcast, it is Ron and Romane Reason, number 4 Reason, and that airs every Saturday morning from 9 to 10. Also, there is a website associated with that. It's called The Real Romane. We use that as part of the show to get feedback from people relative to the show. So you can reach us at The Real Romane. You can reach me, Brother Ron, on Instagram, on Facebook under Ronald Yates.
The Real Romane, can you please provide the spelling?
Okay, the real Romanay, R-E-A-L, Romanay, R-O-M-A-N-A-Y.
Thank you so much, Ron. Again, I appreciate you. Everyone, continue to follow us here at the Lady K Chat Podcast. You can reach us here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I thank you for listening. I want you to like, I want you to leave a comment, and then I want you to share this with someone because this information was very impactful. So thank you, everyone, and I'll see you next week.
Lady K.